name is Firas Wahbeh. I'm the Chief Brand and Strategy Officer for BEEAH Group. And BEEAH is a sustainability company that's focused on the environment, on energy, on healthcare, real estate, and technology. And those are our business verticals that we think impact a sustainable quality of life for the future, which is what we're all about. So I look after everything related to brand, which includes marketing and communications, but also recently took over and setting up a strategy function for the group, looking after the sort of group strategy as well. I would say that from my own experience, and I think I've been here at BEEAH for 12 years, and part of our brand success story, if you will, is that we've kind of evolved from being purely a communications function into being a strategic business function. And hence that's where you see that, my title has strategy now in it, is because we've evolved it to being where brand is at the sort of strategic level for the business and not just a service department or a support function like maybe other organizations look at it, where they see it maybe on par with other support functions like finance and HR and so on. For us it's a strategic driver. So I think as a capability gap, I would say that brand leaders and need to shape their functions to be more of a strategic business function for their organizations, and where they would consider everything from the brand hierarchy and the brand strategy, the brand architecture. Those are things for us as an organization that's grown over the 12 years that I've been here and diversified into these different business verticals. We're constantly reevaluating our brand architecture and our brand strategy as well to kind of move in the direction of the organization as well. And we've learned a lot along the way in that, and that's where we've been able to kind of become this strategic function for the organization. So that's what I would say. It's bigger than just marketing communications. It's more strategic because of how much it drives the positioning and the differentiation and the reputation of the organization. I think a recurring theme that you'll hear from me today is strategic thinking. This has been a focus area for me where, I think some of the work that we've done over time is figured out how, as a B2B brand and a B2G brand that's not as, let's say, customer facing as most B2C brands, you have to be really good at storytelling, and to be really good at storytelling, you have to anchor that in strategic thinking. And you're thinking very carefully about how you're positioning every message and how intentional every message is with what it's trying to achieve. So you have to marry that kind of strategic thinking with the creativity that you need in branding. And so you can kind of balance that creativity of being inspirational and being an inspirational brand with also being very intentional and very strategic about everything that you do. And that also means that you have to be excellent across all the functions of marketing. So it's not enough to be excellent in one area, let's say PR or let's say, social media. You really need to be excellent across all those functions and across the organization. So and some of the brand strategy that you build has to then trickle into other functions too, not just within marketing and communication, but also across the organization. So things like your customer experience, things like your HR, your internal culture that you're building, and yeah, even your operations and sort of technology that you're using and all of that. And I'd say another point of emphasis is on what would help you achieve excellence is influence. So another thing that I think from my experience has been a key success for me here within BEEAH is being able to have that kind of influence at a strategic and executive level rather than again just being tactical and being sort of uh, last part of a workflow. But having that influence at the strategic level of how the organization is positioned, how the organization is representing itself in all different ways is, I think, a key success factor in how to achieve excellence. So I would say there's a couple of key things there. Again, I'm trying to speak as much from my own experience. So I felt like from the beginning, part of what drew me to this role and to this organization here is the leadership alignment. So with our leadership being, I didn't start off within the leadership team 12 years ago when I joined the organization, but I was aligned with our group CEO on the importance of brand and the importance of marketing, but really that brand component. So how strategic it is, how intentional it has to be, how crafted and curated it has to be for it to succeed and for the organization to succeed. So that leadership alignment is, I would say, key number one. Um, Goes hand in hand that the brand also is then embedded into your decision making. So, uh, you know, that's a point number two that goes hand in hand with point number one is with the leadership alignment is it trickling into how you make your decisions on your business strategy, how you make your decisions on your customer experience and relations, how you prioritize things for the organization and for your own internal culture. It all goes hand in hand with, or your brand really is at the heart of that, and doesn't just operate in isolation. Um, I'd also say like consistency. So for us, that's something that let's say we've kind of struggled with, but I think we ended up getting there, and it's still a challenge. It's still a constant challenge, but consistency in how you govern the brand or how the brand also influences the organization. So, like I mentioned in the previous question, where we were talking about evolving organizations that need to kind of evolve their brand strategy as well. That's where we've gotten into maybe some situations where we didn't stay consistent to the brand, or we tried to pivot the brand. I'll say in our defense is that what we did well it was when we did the pivot, we realized quickly that say that's not the right pivot, and then pivoted again to find the right brand approach for the organization as it was growing. Another learning point I would say that maybe helps answer this question is how much internal culture is also important to your external brand. Um, I remember being told many times internally how our staff sometimes felt like they knew what was going on more from monitoring our social media and how we were communicating externally than how we were communicating internally, and that made them feel like they were almost like a forgotten, right? That we were more concerned with our external audience than our own internal audience. So that was a learning for me sort of early on, that your internal communication, and everybody talks about, oh, your best ambassadors are your employees, but it's easy to say. It's hard to actually implement that and make that a priority. So we had to become very intentional about that, and I think we're doing a much better job of that than we did, 6 years ago or so. I think everyone's talking about AI, so I think that's a given, right? That you have to learn and grow with as AI develops and obviously affects um, all functions and all areas of business. Obviously, it's going to affect everything to do with brand and communications. And so I think keeping up with AI is a given. I wouldn't say that, uh, 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 you know, um, I think that's clearly understood that that has to be a priority. But I would say the flip side of that is an equal priority. So meaning uh, managing the complexity of AI and technology advances in general, managing that complexity and still being able to maintain clarity, maintain simplicity. I know everybody loves to quote Steve Jobs, so I hate to be a cliche, but I think, one thing that always sticks with me is when he said that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And so, how do you kind of in the age of AI and in the age of all these technological advances that now you have so much at your disposal and so many tools at your disposal, how do you keep things simple and clear, and how you manage all that complexity, I think is going to become super important moving forward, or is already super important now, I think, in how you move things forward. And maybe what comes with that is then also your ability to adapt, with these advancements and new technologies. So simplicity in the face of growing complexity, adaptability to those changes, those rapid changes. I think that's what also makes it tricky, is how rapid it is. And then I would say, for me, what's kept me going is, I've kept my curiosity level. I think I'm just as curious now at the age of 50 as I was maybe when I was 30. So that's kept me learning. That's kept me hungry to kind of keep developing and keep learning. And I think that's what you have to be as also as an individual, but also as a department, as a function, as an organization. Last thing I'll say is back to again that point of internal versus external. I think storytelling internally is just as important as storytelling externally. Um, you have to be able to kind of have that uh, ability to communicate your priorities, your objectives in a clear narrative internally before you can do it really well externally. And they don't, and they, you have to do both. You can't afford to do one and not the other. And so that to me is like a key of how to sort of move forward and be an effective brand and organization. Definitely AI. Definitely the different tools that are coming with AI, especially the video capability. I mean, I think, again, we've prioritized video storytelling or video as a tool for storytelling, and now being able to do so much more with AI. I mean, we've factored it into our brand campaign last year, and it was very effective and got us to be able to do things. I'll give you an example. So, our environment business, the core of it is waste management and recycling. So waste management by no means is visually an attractive thing to show on video, right? You're looking at recycling bins, you're looking at collection vehicles, even recycling plants are very industrial. It never translates really well on camera, no matter what equipment you have, no matter what kind of, let's say, directors you have. Um, so AI was actually able to help us clean that up a little bit. So to where we know, for instance, a lot of what we're doing is high tech, but you can't see that on camera. It's hard to kind of get that point across. So a lot of the new AI video tools helped us do that in a way where it's not gimmicky. I think when we tested AI at first, it was looking gimmicky and it didn't look seamless. Now the technology is developed to the point where it can look seamless and it can look like you can do a great job of filming and using the AI tools with what you're shooting on camera to come up with something that's really uh, visually impressive, can get what you're trying to communicate across visually as much as sort of through the narrative. So AI by far is obviously like mastering that and being open to adopting that and finding the ways to adopting it without being lacking that sort of human touch. So if you can now kind of tell when you're on LinkedIn and you can see a post that's written by you can tell what's written by AI versus what's written by a human. And there's nothing wrong with a human post that's augmented by AI or improved by AI. I think AI has been a great tool for enhancing everyone's communication skills. I've seen that within our organization, so everyone's a lot more eloquent now. But you can also tell who's you know used AI in a lazy way versus who's used AI in an intentional way to be able to enhance their communication. So those are definitely how you incorporate AI but still keep the human touch, how you incorporate AI to create things that are still even more effective than anything we've been able to create before. So up to that point last year, when we were really being more clear with our brand campaign about the new focus areas we were in, and some of those being real estate and healthcare, unlike our previous businesses, which are more B2B, real estate, you're talking to investors and end users who are buying, real estate units. So we had to become very quickly a B2C brand and be able to kind of communicate that way. Healthcare, same thing. Healthcare, we're building a hospital, and that's coming next. So um, so in terms of our brand campaign, really focused on being able to kind of change people's perception of us as purely an environmental company into also now being a B2C real estate brand in a very cluttered market. So when we developed that campaign, it was the first time we had actually decided the year before that we would test our perception to see what it would be like before the campaign, almost a year before the campaign, to 6 months after the campaign, and check the difference. And the difference was um, insane. Like it made a huge difference between we were primarily known as a waste management company, literally so we're talking 2025. So we did this in 2024. A year later, fast forward a year later, towards the end of 2025, we're monitoring, and that indicator had gone down from a waste management company and into a diversified holding group with different areas. People have understood that almost 40% better compared to the previous year. And that's a drastic jump from one campaign. You don't usually and it's not like we have those kind of budgets that are going to like blast the media. But it was just through the effectiveness of that campaign, which again we used a lot of AI for, because it was able to relay that message that I was telling you about with in an effective way. Being able to use that in a brand film that talked about our different focus areas, talked about our real estate development. Again, we were able to show real estate development that's only hasn't been built yet, but visually we could show that in a much more effective way with AI. So this was the first example of us really adopting AI in a strategic way for a campaign that was strategically like curated or crafted to change a perception and created that effect. So we were very pleasantly surprised with those results, and that's made us now much more data centric as far as now making that brand assessment study an annual one, and keep monitoring our perception along those different objectives.